Welcome to Brain Wellness, the podcast. I'm your host, Mandy NP. Each episode will bring you a new topic or interview related to brain health and wellness as part of my mission to help you on the path to a healthier, happier brain. So, let's get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Brain Wellness, the podcast. My guest today is Andreana Petrocco. Andreana is a life and energetic coach specializing in transforming hardship into healing, self-empowerment, and purposeful living. She coaches women on how to connect with the truest versions of themselves, to find their answers and their confidence to create the life they desire. Integrating meaningful discussion and meditation and intuitive movement, Andreana provides a holistic approach to coaching, focusing on the whole person and their whole experience through the body, mind, and spirit. Having gone through her own deep healing journey to process childhood trauma and reframe her experience with anxiety and depression, Andreana has turned her life around by changing her internal reality and cultivating a strong mind. She is on a mission to help women reduce anxiety, reclaim their lives, reclaim their power, and live with their health and joy as their top priority for the benefit of everyone around them. Her coaching company, Radiant Essence, is based on the idea that everyone has an essence, a spirit, a true nature that can be blocked by fears, anxieties, expectations, etc. Everyone has the power to overcome these barriers and allow their essence to radiate with confidence, to be proud of who they are, and to follow their desires and passions to shape a life dictated by them, for them. Thanks so much for being here, Andreana.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, that's quite the intro. I love some of those words that you use in there. Just really kind of catch the essence, I guess, in your company name of what you
Yeah.
do. Yeah. So I always like to hear from people like, what's your backstory? How did you get to where you are? That's we got a little glimpse of it of why in your
Mhm.
bio, but can you explain on that a little bit more?
Yeah. All right. I'll see if I can explain this concisely because I think it is a long journey and it's an ongoing journey. But I have always been interested in coaching and teaching, and that's my passion, and that is my gift. It took me a long time to accept that and to get there because of my own limiting beliefs and expectations that I put on myself, of how I thought I was supposed to behave, and how we're raised has such a big influence on what we think we're supposed to do. So I kind of, went to school, went to university, just following a path that was suggested to me because I didn't really know what I wanted for myself. Like, I honestly had no idea, like getting into university, what I wanted to do, who I wanted to be, but I did have interests. But I didn't pursue those because it wasn't practical according to other people around me, right? And then I started building this life that wasn't really my life. It wasn't the life I would have chosen. Of course, I got to do fun things and, found ways to have pleasure, but there was always some dis-ease inside me. And I didn't realize that I was anxious a lot of the time, and then after university, I started working in the federal government and I hated it, to be honest. Um, I found ways to, enjoy what I was doing. I met great people, but it wasn't a place where I could thrive. But I didn't know because I wasn't in touch with myself. I was still living for other people. I was still living based on the expectations that I thought other people had on me. I had to get a good job, make good money, but it wasn't my passion. It wasn't what I wanted. And then in my relationships and even with friends, family, I felt more and more dis-ease, more and more anxious in my job, more and more like uncomfortable. It's like it got to such a point that I know I was experiencing depression and I couldn't ignore the anxiety I had anymore. And then that's kind of when I started looking inwards more. I was like, okay, I can't kind of just keep going at this. I had to create some space. And I started meditating, and that opened up for healing to start. And that's when I had unprocessed memories, childhood trauma coming back up, memories that I had pushed down. And, then I started going to therapy, and actually EMDR is the therapy that I've been doing. And it's amazing, hard and intense, but so rewarding once you can finally integrate those emotions that have been stored in your body forever. So it was so interesting because there was always a part of me, I'd say my essence, my spirit, that like believed in myself, that knew who I was and what I could do and the power I had to give. And then there was this part of me, like my physical part, that grew up in this world, that was always trying to like push down my essence, be like, no, 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 you can't do that. No, you're not good enough for that. No, you're not worthy. Like, you don't deserve that. Like, no one really likes you that much, like bad things like that. But unfortunately, it's something we all experience in the subconscious mind. Um, so I've been working through that for years. It's a long process to reshape our mind, like reprogram our thoughts. And again, these are subconscious thoughts, not thoughts that are like at the top of the mind. They're deep under there. And if you're not paying attention, you could be structuring your life in a way that's not true to you. So yeah, that's how I got into coaching. Like I've always been into health. After I studied business and was in the government, I went back to study more health and fitness. And then I became a personal trainer, started teaching classes, but I wanted more of that. But it took a while for me to believe that I could. Like, even before I knew what a life coach was, I had the thought, like, you should do life coaching. And I was like, what? I can't do that. Like, I would never be good enough for that. Like, who am I to become a life coach? And yet here I am doing just that. And I'm hoping, like, my goal is to help women and people like me who experience anxiety, experience depression, and are really living their lives for other people, like people pleasers, people who are overwhelmed, like moms. You know, like, I'm a mom of two, and it's so overwhelming sometimes. And we lose the sense of our power and our passion, and that really pursuing our own desires and needs actually makes the world better for everyone. Where we're not as reactive. We can spend more time with our family because we're happy and we're joyful. So really trying to reframe our minds, and how I did for myself. I want to help other people do that now. And to also get away from the idea that, in our society, productivity has to look a certain way. Your life has to look a certain way. You've got to, get a good job, get married, have kids. And no, it doesn't. It can look like whatever you want. So what do you want? And that's what I want to do. I want to help women get to the bottom of that. If this is your only life, let's jump right in. Let's enjoy it to the fullest, right?
Yeah,
So that's my backstory. And that's how I got here.
I love it. I love hearing people's why because I think, and I've said this time and time again, it gets you to be a more passionate practitioner at whatever you're doing. And so many times I've had multiple guests on like you that have gone through an experience and found it so rewarding that they wanted to help other people because
Mhm.
they found this thing that just really helps. And I love when that happens because it gives you more passion to do what you're
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah.
Same thing with
It's so true.
yeah, same thing with me in healthcare. It's always I had experiences that led me to be more passionate in what I was doing. So it makes you more empathic, it makes you more understanding of the person.
Yeah.
And I think people tend to flock to you more because then they know that you understand the experience that they're going through.
Yeah. Yeah. And when I think about all the hardships I went through, like, I would not wish that on anyone. And I know that there's so many people who live accepting things as they are, maybe not even realizing how much pain they're in, like physically holding their issues in their tissues, unprocessed emotions that still dictate their thoughts. Like, I do not want people to live like that. because it hurts and it causes, like, in the long term, it causes so much illness,
Mhm.
physically, mentally, and spiritually.
Yeah. Yeah. I have seen many people in my practice that have come in with chronic issues, headaches,
Mhm.
migraines, whatever, and a lot of
Yeah.
times the root cause is trauma, unresolved trauma that
Yeah.
they may
Yeah.
or may not remember because like you were saying, you kind of stuff it down and you don't remember these things until something triggers that memory and it comes out and then you're going to have to deal with it.
Mhm.
But you tend not to realize how much it affects your life until that point.
Yeah. Yeah, right? You think you're living in the present. You
Mhm.
think, you know, but because it's subconscious, when I talk to people about this, clients or otherwise, often the first reaction is, "Oh no, like I'm fine." And no, no, that doesn't apply to me. But how do you know if you're stopping that question before you even think about it, really? Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like before you actually think, "Oh, okay," and contemplate it. Contemplate, like, in what ways are your thoughts influencing you? In what thoughts do you have that actually aren't in your conscious day-to-day mind?
Mhm.
So building that awareness is so important.
Mhm.
But it's so fascinating too how the brain works in relation to this. I always geek out about, like, wow, like our emotions themselves also are just fascinating,
Mhm.
and how we experience them on such a visceral level. And we always think, like, my physical ailments, this physical thing is causing me issues. But honestly, like, I'm discovering so much how it's pretty much always emotionally related.
Yeah.
And if you address the emotional aspect first, you're a big step up for healing that part of you,
Yeah.
right? Like, even getting a massage sometimes, and they work out a certain spot. And if you're open, you'll feel a memory, you'll feel an emotion come through.
Mhm.
It's wild.
Mhm.
It's wild and fascinating.
Yeah. I don't know how many times this has come up in conversations recently and on even on podcast interviews, the book The Body Keeps the Score. So we
Oh,
will talk about
okay.
how we have physical issues, but so many of them are tied to mental things that have happened,
Mhm,
traumas, whatever that may have caused that. And we think of it as physical symptoms, but there's really an emotional
mhm.
component underlying in all of it.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Mhm.
And, like, the brain, the mind, it remembers, and it's our defenses, right?
Mhm.
And I've just had such an amazing journey, piecing it all together. Like, why do I have such big reactions for certain things that aren't even a big deal?
Yeah.
And you're like, it has nothing to do with the present moment,
Yep.
actually.
Yeah.
It's all from, like, when I was a baby and whatever, didn't get the love I needed or the attention, whatever it was, right?
Yeah.
The brain is amazing.
It's fascinating. I mean, there's a reason I've been in neuroscience for 20 plus years
Yes.
here because
Yeah.
I love the brain. But I
Right.
love
Me
also that
too.
you mentioned the EMDR. So
Hmm.
I actually went through EMDR after from PTSD from my car accident. And
Right.
just the process of changing and reframing your thought process about
Hmm.
the trauma itself. It's very freeing and very empowering to go through that and be able to change how you look at those experiences.
Hmm. Hmm. And it is, I think, hopeful and inspiring
Mhm.
to know that we can actually change our thoughts. And so we're in control,
Mhm.
really. Once you're able to, like, identify what's happening,
Mhm.
you get to decide how you want things to go, right? What you want
Yeah.
your thoughts to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah. So I think that pairs up really well with what you do with helping people reframe their lives and
Hmm.
reframe thoughts about different activities in their life. So I love that connection there also with you. Talking a little bit about that, what are some ways that we can reframe our mind?
Yeah, I love that. Well, EMDR, of
Yeah.
course, therapy. And I'd say, yeah, if people are interested, they should definitely look it up. But it is an intense process. So maybe it's not for everyone, but there is different versions of therapy that can work for people. But if you're not a therapy person, there are simpler ways. And maybe for things that aren't as like big for you, um, I always say the biggest thing first of everything else is awareness, because if you don't know what's happening, you can't really change it or improve it, right?
Yeah.
So it's all about noticing your thoughts, noticing your reactions, and even knowing what to look for. So different thoughts, sometimes we blame ourselves for everything. We put ourselves down, that negative self-talk, like, oh, you can't do this. Focusing on the negative in situations, getting really angry quickly, or having big reactions to situations. All of those are indicators that like things that you can pay attention to, right? That's how you can build your awareness. So start noticing your thoughts instead of just having them running all the time, being like free to do whatever. Be the curious and non-judgmental observer. Just sit, watch your thoughts like throughout the day. Try to notice, pick it, and then you start notice, okay, which ones are helpful to me and which ones aren't?
Yeah.
Which ones are kind of like mean or which ones are uplifting? And notice how it stands. Like, how many of each do you have? And I spent a lot of time practicing that for myself. At the beginning, it's hard, you know, and you might only notice like after the fact, like, oh, earlier I said this to myself. Okay. But then as you practice it more, you start catching those negative thought patterns earlier on. You can maybe catch it as you're saying it, and then eventually catch it before you even go there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the power. But it all comes with practice, building that awareness over time. What's really helpful is spending time with just you, getting rid of distractions. And like this could be meditation, this could be silent contemplation, it could be just thinking exercises, whatever, but in a quiet place where you feel safe and you can just listen and just notice, building that connection to yourself. Also noticing how your nervous system reacts in different situations around different people, and just starting to piece things together. So, right, awareness is always number one.
Mm-hmm.
What's happening? And then why? You can bring that into contemplation, which is questioning the validity of the thoughts. So you have like, oh, I can't do that. Like, I'm not good enough. And then, well, what if that wasn't true? What if the opposite is true? Or what else could be true instead of that? Right? Just questioning, like, and if it's situation specific, thinking about like, what am I worried about? Why? Oh, I have a little bug. Hello. What am I worried about? Why? And what's the evidence to support that? Are there other possibilities, other outcomes? And how would I feel for these different outcomes? Like really taking a logical look at, okay, what's real here and what's my reaction? Okay. Then the next step is replacing those like non-existing, non-helpful thoughts with some more helpful, supportive, maybe either neutral or maybe even positive thoughts. Okay. And that also takes time. This isn't something we can snap our fingers and just do immediately. I wish, but no,
Mm-hmm.
it's a practice. And I find there's always deeper layers too. We'll start at the top and we'll peel back the layers and learn more and more about ourselves. And if you maintain curiosity and just an eagerness to learn about yourself instead of going at it with judgment, then it's a beautiful experience.
Mm-hmm.
And remembering that there's nothing to fix, but that, you're worthy and you deserve to feel good all the time. So let's do this to support myself, So awareness, contemplation, and then replacing the existing thoughts. There's lots of ways you can do that. I like to do post-it notes. So I focus in on one specific thought. I probably have some like all around me, like literally all over, even there. Like I am safe, right? So one of my key beliefs was I'm not safe. Like no matter where I was, not safe. My nervous system was always on edge. So one thing I started writing in all the main places that I go is I am safe. I am safe. I am safe. And so seeing it all the time helps to reminds me, and then I say it in my head, right? You can do writing exercises. There's a good one where you write out like all the lies you tell yourself, all the negative beliefs. And then underneath, you write the truth, the opposite, and then you repeat it, you read through it a bunch, like over several days. Like you read the lie and then the truth, the lie and then the truth, the lie, the truth. And then after several days, you go and you erase the lie and you're just left with the truth. And then you read through the truths and you can keep that. These are my truths. This is what I'm replacing with. And so that's a good one too. Meditation, coaching, discussions, anything that's guided, I find helps as well when you're first starting out, because you get that support and you feel held. And that's important when you're going deep into things that have been there a long time, where your nervous system holds on to that as a defense mechanism.
Yep.
So having that support is very helpful to help reframe, right? And again, patience, because might not work right away. Some thoughts might not even be able to change completely, but at least you can find a new perspective. If you're open to experimenting, go at it with an open heart and an open mind, then you can really make some big changes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What do you ever get pushback from people who aren't really into meditation or any of that? And you talk about spirituality in your biography. Do you ever get pushback from people that say, "Well, I'm not a religious person. Like I can't do any of those things"?
What I get a lot about, like in terms of meditation, maybe this is one of my pet peeves, is you say, if I ask someone, "Have you tried meditation?" They say, "Oh, I tried it once. I couldn't do it. It's not for me."
Yeah.
I'm like, well, hang on. Like, what kind of meditation did you try? Right? Because there's so many different kinds, and there is a meditation that works for everyone. All it is like exercising the brain. It's like saying, "Did you try working out?" "Yeah, I did, but it didn't work. I can't do it." But there's so many different ways that you can work out. Like, of course, there's a way that works for you. It's the same thing for the brain.
Yeah.
Meditation is a workout for the brain. And for me, spirituality is really just, it's not religious. It's just about believing that there's more, right? It could be, for me, it's more than the physical, that we all have like an energy that we share. We all come from the same energy, the same place. Like our essence is all a shared energy, right? And then we all kind of stem from that. It could be religious for some people. It doesn't have to be. It could be very scientific for other people. I think you can be scientific and spiritual. Like I love science, but I also, when I go out and in nature, go outside, I know that I'm home. Like we are nature. We come from that. We are part of that. And any separation actually causes us a lot of dis-ease, a lot of illnesses, because we're not integrated with nature anymore. We see it as a separate thing, but we are nature, right?
Mhm.
And to me, spirituality is feeling that connection, all about connection always, right? Yeah. And then through meditation, you can build that connection and get back into spirituality and what that means to you.
Yeah. I love that. That's pretty similar to what I've explained to people also before when they've tried to push back and say, "Well, I'm not religious. I can't do that." Well, religion and
Yeah.
spirituality are not the same.
Not the
They
same.
can be, but they don't have to be. And
Mm-hmm.
then there was a meditation that somebody introduced me to at one point. It's a Samuel L. Jackson meditation on YouTube that there's a lot of swear words in it. So if you're not for
That's
meditation, that
amazing.
still might be a meditation for you.
That's so good. But that's so cool. That just gave me an idea for a meditation of like a releasing kind, where
Mhm.
like, especially if you're angry or frustrated, where you just speak what comes to your mind. And maybe there's a lot of swearing, you know?
Yeah.
There's so many ways to meditate. It could be contemplation, you know, it could be going for a walk and like practicing mindfulness, like practicing what do I see? Just being in the moment, like
Mhm.
grabbing an object and just noticing the object, you know? Um, Guided meditations are very helpful for people who are starting out, but you can meditate through movement as well, through dance, through creating. I paint,
Yeah.
and that's also meditative, right? So there's so many ways. I think the point is to find a way that works for you, that you feel comfortable with,
Mhm.
because so many people, they're like, I can't just sit there and not have thoughts. I'm like, well, I don't think anyone can do that. I can't do that. That's not meditation. Like, you can't stop your thoughts. Yeah, that's not the goal, right?
Yeah.
So it's just finding a way that works for you.
Yeah. Yeah. I was a fitness coach for a while, and I used to tell people that
Yeah.
there's, like you mentioned, there's an exercise for everybody. You just need to find what you like, and that's what you'll stick
Yeah.
with. And
Mhm.
same thing with meditation, and same thing with kind of any kind of calming activity. We were just in the Boundary Waters canoe area this past weekend, out in the
Ooh,
wilderness, in the middle of trees,
nice.
and I just loved standing there and listening to the sounds. And
Yeah,
it is just that freeing thing of being in nature, and that itself can be meditation. Just sit there and listen. I
exactly.
love it.
Exactly. That's one
Mhm.
of my favorite practices, actually. Like, even, yeah, growing up, trying to navigate my trauma and things, nature, like being outside, looking at a tree was always something that calmed me, because there's power in that, you know, that's, again, that's our roots. That's where we come from.
Mhm. Mhm.
It also pulls you into just the moment and into the wonder of the universe, right? And that, to me, again, that's what spirituality is to me.
Yeah.
Experiencing the awe and the wonder and the magic of what's in front of you, but also what's beyond what you can see.
Mhm.
And it's very healing to be open to that and experience that.
Mhm.
Even just looking at the stars, I'm sure everyone can relate to that. When you get out away from the city and you see the stars, like that feeling, that's meditative. That's spirituality.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, there's literally one night on vacation that we sat and laid on a dock and looked up at the stars.
Oh, I love
And we were
that.
right next to the Canada border too,
Beautiful.
so we're right up in your neck of the woods almost.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love
So,
being out there in the wilderness, honestly. Like, it feels like going home. Everything's so simple, no distractions, no overstimulation, just
mhm.
peace.
Mhm. I need to plan another trip going back there.
Oh yeah, you should.
Yeah. So speaking of plans, do you have any upcoming events or anything that you want to share with our listeners on ways that they can connect with you or anything like that?
Well, you can always connect with me through social media. On Instagram, it's at your radiant essence, you know. And
Mhm.
then also Facebook. I have a website, radiantessence.ca. .ca is for Canada,
Mhm.
but it works everywhere, right? And you can always reach out to me there. I offer free connection calls. So if you just want to chat and like see what my services are about, how I do things, how I do coaching, and what I offer, you can go through there. I also offer workshops. You can check all that out on my website. Um, and I have a newsletter too. So if you're interested in becoming part of the circle, you can sign up through my website. And I like to offer free meditations through there where we actually meet and remotely. And then we can connect. And yeah, because it's all about connection, right? And cultivating those relationships, those supporting relationships. And if you're like, I have no idea how to start meditating, then a guided meditation like that is very helpful. And you can work out your brain with other people.
Very nice, very nice. I was going to ask you, since you are in Canada, is that something that you can do across borders? So,
What's that?
the coaching and everything. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mostly do it, through the computer just to be more accessible for people and for their schedules and such. So
Mhm.
yes, anyone from anywhere, you can schedule a session with me, a consultation with me.
Awesome. Awesome. I think we could probably talk all day long, but
Oh my
um,
gosh, yes.
any any last sense of time here anyway. Any last words that you'd like to share? Any last thoughts as we wrap up today?
Mhm. I'd love to encourage everyone to be curious about themselves. We grow up, excuse me, in a world where we're bombarded with images and ideas about who we're supposed to be and expectations about how we're supposed to behave. And especially women, like, do this to look beautiful, do this to be accepted, do this to be loved. And it's a lot and it's overwhelming. So take a deep breath and spend some time alone with yourself to connect to yourself, get to know yourself some more. What are your desires? What are your needs? How do you want your day-to-day life to look? And if there are changes you want to make in your life, know that you have the power to change them, and know that you deserve it and you're worthy of it. And there's no need to sacrifice your joy and your passions and your contentment for anything or anyone. You can have multiple things. You can structure your life the way you want. You don't have to work 9 to 5. You can 5 days a week, whatever. You find your place, you follow your passions, and you'll find your purpose and the life that works for you. And at the same time, work through all the crap that your body stores, all those emotions. You don't need that anymore. You'll feel so much lighter once you move through it.
So true, so true. To piggyback off of that, as moms, we're setting examples for our kids too. So
Exactly.
when you heal yourself, when you take that time for you, you're showing them what's okay to do for themselves
Mhm.
also.
Exactly. And prioritizing yourself, talking about health in general, talking about your mental health with your kids. Like,
Mm.
I'm very open with that, especially related to hormones and the menstrual cycle, like talking about, oh yeah, like, I don't have patience right now because I'm in a lot of pain, whatever it is, right? Being honest and showing them that they can be free to express themselves instead of storing the emotions as well, right?
Yeah.
That's not what we want. We want to process them as they come.
Hmm. Very good words. I think that, well, I don't think there are any better words to end on. So thank you so much for being here today, Andriana.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. What a great
Absolutely.
conversation.
Oh, heck yeah. Like I said, we could have gone all day, but thank you again.
Exactly.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Brain Wellness, the podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, I encourage you to subscribe, like, and share this with others to help me continue on with my mission to help people live healthier, happier lives. Go to www.brainwellnesssolutions.com to see what I'm up to and get links to all the social medias there. See you next time.